Welcome to another episode of Teach Me to Fish, where our purpose is to help leaders better understand what drives people. In today's world, the core of recruiting and retaining talent revolves around leadership. And not just average leadership, but motivated, values-based, inspirational leadership. Our purpose is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories and stacking habits. Habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. Today's episode is with Adisa King, Bronco 6, and Michae Olivas, Bronco 7 from the 3rd Brigade, 25th Infantry Division. In this conversation, we'll talk about their experiences over the last year and what makes their organization so special. We'll talk about the Bronco Brigade, how they prepare for training, exercises, and Tropic Lightning Week with the same approach. Do what you say you can do, listen to your people, progress equals small victories, 1% better every day by being brilliant in the basics, dominate when called upon, and that's being dependable. You can watch this conversation on YouTube at Forged in the Pacific, and I encourage you to check it out and use some of the tools that YouTube has provided. Some of the summaries, chapter descriptions, timestamps with some of the key parts. The whole point behind sharing this conversation on as many platforms as possible is to help feed the topics that you are most interested in on the platforms that work best for you. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Adisa King and Michae Olivas. Welcome to Forged in the Pacific, where our purpose is to inspire leaders and reinvigorate the warrior ethos. Using multiple platforms, we're bringing together warfighting professionals to strengthen the Army's profession and our bonds with our partners and our allies. At JPMRC, the Army's newest regional combat training center here in the Pacific, we support the theater campaign plan by building readiness, strengthening partnerships, and enhancing partner capacity. JPMRC is the epicenter of interoperability and modernization. Here at the CTCs, our purpose is ultimately, number one, leadership development, and number two, to validate formations and new equipment. And the conversation that we're going to have today is going to revolve around those two big things, right?
Yeah.
Leadership development, which you guys do in spades, and the 25th Infantry Division does. And then validating the new formation that you guys have and validating the new equipment. That's why the CTCs exist. And I think that's what we've been doing together for the last couple of years. Hey, we no surprises, but we just wrapped up, an awesome exercise with 2601. I'm here with the Bronco Brigade, with Bronco 6 and Bronco 7. Here today. We just finished up the exercise with our senior trainer being Major General Bartholomew's and Sergeant Major Curry that were out here with us. I could start spitting out names for days, but I'm not going to because I kind of want to get after it here today with a conversation with you guys. This isn't going to be a rerun of the AAR.
Sure.
That will be up on YouTube. We'll have that up there so people can listen in and hear the exact conversations that we had during the AARs. But this is going to be a week and a half later, so what? Now we've had a chance to kind of let some of this stuff soak in and where are we going? But 2601, the exercise as a whole, just to rattle off a couple of things for you guys and for those people that are listening. This exercise happened over 3 different islands. We were on Oahu, we were on the Big Island of Hawaii. We went all the way out to Wake Island and then some other islands, right? We were not just validating your brigade, but the HIMARS battalion was being validated. The DeVarty was being validated. Multiple battalions. There was 64 different types of technology that was being out there, being tested or innovated with or validated. Somewhere of 375 different drone flights, 550-something hours of drones were flown across those islands. There was over 8,200 participants, and I think that's lowballing it right there, saying that there was 8,200. Because there was people that were involved in this exercise. They didn't have to go TDY. They were here or they were on one of those islands. I think that number could be upwards of 20,000 people that were involved in JPMRC 2601. There was 8 different nations that were in there. And when someone asks Matt, like, what was the biggest thing that kind of came of this exercise from the Bronco Brigade? The things that we're going to talk about a little bit here today is the mobility was a game changer. The shortening of the kill chain has become a game changer. Yeah. Leadership, tried and true, has proven that it is the linchpin to winning, and that tempo for you guys, and that's become consistent on a lot of the exercises that I do. I want to shut up here and kind of talk with you guys. And what I want to first start off with is about the Bronco Brigade. And there's no secret, anybody that's been paying attention to anything from social media or anywhere here on the island knows that the Bronco Brigade for a long time now has had something special with it. And from you guys, what is it about the Bronco Brigade that makes it special?
Man, oh boy, that's deep. Well, not include my voice. But I tell you, it's when I look back and it goes to me, we said it yesterday when we did the reflagging ceremony. You can sum it up in a phrase. Remember who you are and whose you are. Whose you are. We come from a history of warfighters that have laid a foundation for this organization. And you want to make sure you do not let that fail. You uphold it. I inherited. We did. We inherited the history of it. We inherited the accomplishments. The streamers, we inherited it. So you do any and everything to uphold that. And I love the structure. When I say structure, you look at the quads. You cannot go to any quad and not be inspired to go get your butt to work.
Yeah.
You can't, right? Because everyone sees you.
Yep.
People see you when you pull up. People see you when you park. And that is from private to 06.
Yep.
Everyone sees it. And that's a good thing because you want to say, hey, I'm here. I'm here. You can go to each quad and see that. So for me, that's what I look back and just very simple. Why is it special? Because of not only the people before us, the people before us, and you want to make sure you uphold that.
Yeah.
There's at least one.
Yeah, it's infectious.
Yeah.
It's infectious, and I love being around it. Sorry, Major.
All right. So I think what makes it real special here, especially as I've gotten, to do my first, overseas trip to Hawaii and then, this become my first Oconus station it's really about sincerity. I think it's approaching problems with sincerity. I have witnessed my predecessor with, now Lightning 7 approach his problems with sincerity, transparency, and I see the soldiers like gravitate to that, right? And that's something that I was bringing from my previous experiences was like the approachability, being able to look at people, see them for who they are, and then when they have a problem, not brush it off, but attack that type of stuff. And so if I can attack a problem, with our soldiers at any level, I expected to have them attack the same problems out in the field with that same aggression to like, hey, we got to solve this thing. And so I think a lot of that is people know that when they come here, problems get solved. And if they're left open, then we're going to find a way to fix it, solve it, and reduce it as best as we can. And then another thing, one last thing, right? I want to capitalize on this. I think it's also about, because I've been getting a lot of messages, private messages from soldiers who are like, hey, I'm seeing you guys from afar and like, I wish I could come back to that brigade, or I wish I can come to you guys now from what you and Colonel King have done over the years. People want to come here. So I think there's a following that comes with this. You've had, great leaders like Colonel Shaw, Sergeant Major Curry, who was before, and people want to come back to this. Yeah. And they want to represent what the units are doing. So I think it's just a lot about who's in place and then what do you bring that makes people come here. So you're wanting more people to come here, and then you want people to stay, and people are wanting to stay here. So it's something about this brigade. It's good. You're in Hawaii, so you can't.
And I think that, being that right. I've been in the Army for a long time now, right? And the one thing I do know is it's so rare that you get to ever go back to the same organization that you were in before. Right. Yeah. Well, what you can do is you can follow the old motto of what's the best unit in the Army, the one you win. Right. And so if you even like what you had in a certain unit where it was special, create that in whatever organization that you are a part of right now.
That's right.
Why not?
That's right.
Right. Like take the things that you learned, what made it special while you were there, and go make it happen in the unit that you are a part of right now. I think that's another thing that makes it special is people take this with them where they go and try to create that culture.
They do. And, the thing you mentioned, Rob, and Rob left a note on my desk he left a note before when we changed out. And he says, take care of the organization. Right? And that's what I love about me and him. I mean, we grew up together at prep school. We kind of always been in the same places, some place. And just like even with you and I, right? We grew up in Panthers, right? It started with number 3, 3rd Brigade. But the key thing goes back to remember who you are and whose you are. You inherited something. You want to make sure I'm giving all to this organization. Yeah. And the best part about it, the soldiers see it.
Yes.
When a light fighter saw, and all the captains, they saw that an 06 had to go to jungle school and completed it.
Yep.
You have no excuse, like zero.
Amen.
And then same thing with Sergeant Major. Went to E3B, was crushing it, was hurt. Then jungle school, like you have no excuse at all. And so that's how you uphold that organization because you're down and in with them. So again, it's just to me that phrase of remember who you are and whose you are is what helps the organization because you've inherited that history and you got to carry it forward all the way.
Yeah. I want this to be the theme of most of our conversation. Sure. So as we go through it, there are things that you guys and this organization does, and that all of the 25th Infantry Division, for that matter, does, right? That makes it special. And why do people want to be a part of it? But why do they want to mimic some of the things that they see? Or how can they watch a leader and even try to do something that they're doing? Try to mimic that at your echelon with your folks, that are down there. So this is a theme that I want to kind of carry throughout the conversation. All right, but the first kind of category I want to go into is what did you guys do and how did you prepare for this exercise for JPMRC, right? Because the lights didn't come on all of a sudden. It's like, hey, it's time to go into the box. It's time for. Right. It's a long road, and we can kind of start from what you experienced last year and how that shaped what you wanted to do this year, and prepare this brigade for what it just kind of went through.
I will tell you, can you do what you say you can do? Right? And I think we laid out, Sergeant Major, I talked about this. It's very simple for us. And even when I gave my assessment to the CG at the time, Major General Evans, can you deploy? Can you do reconnaissance? Can you actually fight? Can you sustain? Can we do that? If that's your North Star, if that becomes your North Star, then everything you do needs to be focused on that. Now you have to break that down because that's the framework that my field grades and we all talked about. The framework is this: the people, the equipment, the training, and sustaining. If you can understand how you do deployments from the people, equipment, training, sustaining standpoint, that'll allow you to get some into those no-kidding details. Mm-hmm. And when it came to people, you talk about leaders, and then you talk about the NCOs and officers. And when it came to people, that was our major department. Because he
for the people.
He knows the soldiers. And so if you approach everything, and that's how we approached everything, is that simple framework. And the biggest thing is I told all the leaders in our LPDs, and when we have our communications with our commanders and first sergeants, this is how you need to talk to me. You're going to bring a problem, or you have not a problem, but in any way you approach it, help me understand the people, the equipment, the training, sustaining. And when you go sustainment, you're like, well, what do you mean? Okay, medical, maintenance, and money. If you don't have your medical, maintenance, and money together, it's going to be very hard for you to do any kind of training. So it was that approach that we took with everything. And that's how we were able to get to Bronco Smoke, which was the FSCX company live fires, right? Mm-hmm. And we were able to do that throughout. And then we went to Bronco Blitz, that's company Exivals. and we kind of able to do the same thing. And that's what allowed us to spend over 40-something days as a brigade in the field.
Over the course of how long?
Oh, man. Or 6 months, maybe 6 months?
6 to 8 months, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when people ask you, how do you prepare? That's how we started. That's how we started everything.
Yeah, I feel blessed to have been able to, because I live right here and I get to watch you guys.
Sure.
I get to watch the whole division, and I see the training progression. I hear on Fridays and Saturdays, gunfire going off at the ranges. I see people roll past my house, in ISVs. I know they're heading to the Kahukus. Sure. I see, we see those things, that training progression, the home station training, the things that you do to prepare for the exercise. It's one of the 5 things that when makes the difference between a successful unit at a combat training center or a deployment for that matter is, do they practice the things that they know they need to do weeks and months in advance? Sure. Or do they just show up to an exercise with a piece of equipment, with a group of people that don't even know each other's first names, and they show up for the first time and they're going to practice something? That's not a method for success. The getting out there and practicing months in advance is the simple formula for success, training progression.
It absolutely is. And somebody, I know you have some things in there, but the thing I would tell you is we didn't always get it right. I didn't always get it right. And specifically where I thought we had to do this one approach, but I got feedback from my company commanders, first sergeants. And the thing is, every day, and every time we did a brief, if a soldier or a leader was like, hey, sir, here's a recommendation. I'm like, oh, okay. That makes sense. Let's do that then. Right?
What are some of the methods that you use to get that feedback? Sounds simple, but there are some good techniques. Like, how are you getting that feedback from folks on what's working and what's not working?
So I'd say the easiest way that you get that feedback is it's presence. It's being out in the quads. Yeah. I'm not kidding. It's that is, we will go and like, we'll move from location to location during PT. And, as we're out there, we're sweating our butts off. And then there's a soldier. We're like, hey, what are you doing today? And they're working out. Yeah. But in that workout, we're having conversations like, what'd you think about Bronco Smoke? Well, Sergeant Major, if we only had this, or, hey, sir, yeah, this went really well. But I think, if we added some more of this flavor to the next thing, I think that'd be cool. And we just take that back to the staff, and we start like, hey, what'd you guys think about this as well? And then from there, we just start, micro machining that thing, and then it turns into, hey, let's add that into the next setup for training, and it becomes a must do instead of just like a afterthought. Yeah. So it's really just being out there, and that's one element of part of our presence is trying to be out everywhere we can, divide and conquer, or we just go together and just, get after that. But, another venue that we did too is we do LPDs and First Sergeant Commander PT. That's it. And that's the one that like we really make the big bucks there, because they're those companies and those command teams are the ones who are going to be driving that training plan inside of their organization. Mm-hmm. And so it's shared across those other commanders and first sergeants, and they're like, hey, I know that when we were doing this busting the gulch for Bronco Smoke, we got to this portion of it, and when we start talking, like if you talk MASCAL, right, the first sergeants were seeing what they were doing wrong. They were sharing the information, like, hey, I think we could be better as a brigade if we initiate a couple more add-ons to our recovery or our movements of people off the X. How can we do that better? They provide a solution right there, and that's where we capitalize on change within the brigade.
Yeah, 3 levels. Like 3 levels, right? You got the walkabouts; they work. The formal, kind of semi-formal, is everyone does PT, and one of the things that I picked up from Rob was that you do company command PT, but you don't just do the mix, like A and B. Company commanders and first sergeants, we all get together and we all do a workout together. And sometimes, here's the deal, they don't know what the workout is. It's because when I need you, I need you. I need you to be prepared to just be able to go. So that's that kind of semi-formal. And we would kind of end every session with, I'll pull up a whiteboard. I say, tell me what's going on. and it's non-attribution. I just need to understand, right? I need brutal facts. And that's the thing is like, I want brutal facts. And one time, hey, sir, sometimes I think you're not very clear in your guidance. Say, thank you for that. Hey, sir, we're not getting the right details for X, Y, and Z. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you for that. Right? Don't try to explain it away. And that's what every leader would try to do. And that we learned, like, nah, I'm like, okay. Because you look at our motto. First principle we talk about, be better, get better, because there's none better. Be better means, hey, if I'm jacked up on something, you better come and tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then the formal way is, for my DOCs and sitting down and actually reading it. And then the best part about a DOCs is when we did the Bronco Azimuth, we listed out, you guys said this. Here's how we plan to attack this. Because most people, when you hear about DOCs, you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
Well, nothing was heard. Well, guess what? Hey, I hear you. And we will lay it out in front of the entire leadership. And that's one of the things that when you ask, how did we get to where we were? Or how did we get to where we are? Because, man, we change. You have to be able to adapt to what the people have. So
yeah, I think it sounds easy to ask for feedback, right? But, if you ask somebody like, hey, tell me where I'm jacked up, it's hard for people to kind of tell you, give you an answer to something like that. But if you ask better questions, right, as you go out there, especially if you're kind of a senior leader, right, you ask a better question, you'll get the answers maybe you're looking for. Like, for example, I think one of my favorite ones is, what are you looking forward to the most about this today or this week? And if you ask a soldier that, you're going to get the answer that you get back is the truth, right? Yeah. If they say what they say is what they remembered, if you say, hey, what's the most important thing you got going on over the next 30 days? And they give you 3 things that were not inside your priorities, you just know that your communication is not getting down to the lowest level, or, it was misunderstood. So asking a better question, right? And that's my favorite question. Every time I show up to the perimeter of a company and I ask the soldiers on the front, what are you looking forward to the most about the next 12, 24 hours? And sometimes I know everything I need to know about that company based on how that soldier answers it. Right. I also know a little bit about the company, whether or not they got camo, whether or not they got a sector sketch, whether or not they got a range card. I know everything I need to know about that company, the commander, the first sergeant, everything, just by the way that kid answers the question. Yep. And if you're not in the field, it's in the chow line. A young soldier in the chow, what are you looking forward to this week? Right. They'll tell you. And they'll tell you what's important, or at least what's making its way down to the youngest soldier. No,
I appreciate it. I mean, that's and if you want to, round out that question, how do we train to get here is that you get not only the framework, but you got to know your people. And that's when KYP, know your people and get down and in with them. And instead of, at least at the brigade level, I said, hey, my primary training audience is company commanders, first sergeants. And that's my fight. And that's what I focused on. And that allows me to say, hey, battalion commanders, they got a piece they have to work on. I'm going to let them do that. Yeah. And that allows me to not worry about all the other stuff that comes up. Yeah. Like, no, hey, that's a battalion commander fight. He got that. I was like, hey, No Fear 6, what do you need? Yeah. Cat-Eye 6, what do you need? LSB, Mustangs, what do you need? Okay, how can I help you? Yeah. And if you're able to let the commanders command, but then focus and let them know that I am going to talk to the company commanders and first sergeants, because those are my commanders. Yeah. That I need to make sure is straight, because I got to provide capable people, right? So that was one of the things I saw that was helpful, especially when then came from all our training events. I spent time with them. Yeah. So no surprise, you guys are spending a ton of time with your folks out there. You're listening to what they have to say. Let us see behind the curtain a little bit, right? Was there anything specific that came out of the Philippines last year when you showed up and you did JPMRC X with the Broncos, and you were like, hey, a couple things that we absolutely kind of must get right in this training progression in order to be ready to go for
for this exercise? I know you talked about medical maintenance, money, sustainment. You talked about a couple of those things, recon and stuff like that. But was there anything that you were a little bit surprised by that you knew you needed to get ready for?
If you can't talk, if you can't communicate, it's irrelevant. Whatever plan you have, if you can't do that, there's very little you can do. And I know we had a lot of focus on the LRs, the UASs and whatnot. And that's when I realized, because it was day 5 after my change of command, that I went into the Philippines and then went into JPMRCX. And that terrain is a beast. That weather is a beast. And that allowed me to, when it came time for experimentation, the first time I asked him, I said, anybody, contractor, I didn't care. I was brutal with any of them. I said, okay, did you take this to the Philippines? Can it handle this? Well, not helpful. I was like, nope, don't need you. I said, I'll come test it out. But if you can't understand that part of experimentation, as far as being brutal with them, I was just ruthless with that one. So, but again, communication was the part for me. And then a sustainment piece was where there was equipment. If you didn't have, in the Philippines, if you were not on an actual animal water buffalo, or maybe a gator at the time, or something that like a Polaris Ranger, something like that, you were not moving in that country, period. And that allowed us, at least me, when I came back, to focus on, hey, you have to be able to move and you have to be able to communicate in the worst weather. In the worst weather. And that, and again, when it came to sustainment, power generation, all those things, that shaped my whole experience when we came back home station. And the last thing I would tell everyone, if someone was really shooting at you, I'll never forget, in a barangay. Again, if you don't know what a barangay is, then you really hadn't been to the Philippines. Okay? It's those terms, right? That you begin to, right, pick up. A hobble hobble. They're like, what is that? Okay, you don't know the terrain. You don't know the people. But in a barangay, it's a village. Okay? And guys were running around shooting, and those blank fires, and they're doing this. I said, wait a minute. And I brought a platoon leader afterwards, because most people didn't know who I was, because I was walking around in nods.
Because you're so new.
They was like, who's this guy? I'm like, hey, come here. And here's what I asked him. And I said, if someone was really shooting at you and trying to kill you, would you be doing what you're doing? Okay, then why are we doing it? That was a simple question that I would ask any leader, any soldier. I said, would you be doing what you're doing right now if you knew something was shooting over your head or someone was really trying to kill you and shoot at you? And that changed. That changed people's approach.
Yeah.
And so that from that framework, that's what I was able to take from the Philippines and ask, hey, man, we got to be able to talk. You got to be able to sustain. And that's kind of how we just kind of, ask, like you said, ask the right questions. And that's hard questions.
Yeah. Talk, sustain, and be mobile and be able to move. Sergeant Major, was there anything that you knew that you were harping on for months during the the train up and the progression, the training progression? You kept saying the same thing over and over and over in preparation for this. What was some of those things?
So I didn't have the honor of getting out to JPMRC. I had just got on island. So what I saw was, from what I was hearing, the feedback, the AARs, and then some of our own, like there was some heat cats that we had, and there was, not understanding the equipment that we had, because everything was kind of changing. It was new to them. They were getting these new drones, and they weren't understanding the equipment. So that's why I started harping on a lot about the, being deliberate about using your equipment, putting the right people to use it, not just hey, I'm just going to drop you into this because I know you're not going to be able to walk the 12 Ks, but you're going to fly this thing. And that's probably the wrong person to put in there. You want somebody that has that talent internal to your unit to say, hey, this person actually has a niche for this, and they want to fly. So I'm going to put them in there. Even if they could, be the hero of the battle, they're going to sit here and they're going to help you hunt and kill things out further than than your formations. And then when it came to, like these heat cats that we were having out there, deliberately looking at like what does our reverse cycle planning look like? What does our load look like in how we move through the jungle? So it was like recovering in the day and hydrating and working at night. So those were the things we wanted to start working and implementing through the brigade, going into our next rotations, and becoming that RTU that's going to go through JPMRC. Because to be honest with you, I don't recall a heat cat throughout JPMRC. Yeah. I don't recall us even having anything that was real world to that. I mean, we had some real worlds, but I don't think there was anything that was related to a heat injury because units were preparing themselves. At least I hope that they were preparing themselves, because that's a pretty good takeaway that we established here.
Yeah, that's a huge takeaway. Not a little bit of a takeaway. A huge takeaway was that there was never conversations about mass heat casualties, companies not able to move throughout the terrain because they were either out of water, out of sustainment, hadn't done enough recovery, weren't prepared for something like that. You also didn't have vehicle rollovers, accidents. People were being disciplined. They were moving slow and methodically, right? They weren't being reckless. Mm-hmm. We had no significant injuries, no significant accidents. Like, that's not an act. I mean, that's months of training that leads to something that becomes, there wasn't any of those things while you're out there. Go ahead.
So this is rich, because what a lot of people don't understand is, as a squadron commander in 101st, we had vehicles, and this right here was one of my first sergeants. So we knew each other when it came time to vehicles. We knew it. We understood it. So now, as we begin to transform and we knew we have all these vehicles, we're like, okay, driver's training. You will execute driver's training. And it won't be this, hey, I just drove down the road. No. It'd be a little bit more than that. And, we had from an actual deliberate program and being real. Like, hey, dude, you just can't have your LI and LE. Be like, what is that? You don't know the language. Mm-hmm. A licensed instructor and a licensed examiner can't be the same people. Right? Those are details. When I started asking questions to company commanders, they like, your program's jacked up. Nope, redo. And that allowed us. Yeah,
because we got more vehicles than we've ever had now.
There you go. Exactly. So those are the lessons that you learn from JPMRCX, but also from previous experiences. Yeah. And again, being mechanized before, you understand the maintenance piece. You understand that, hey, in order to be reliable, you got to be able to move when it's time to move, man. You can't be like, oh, sorry, I got to fix this thing, or, oh, sorry, Major, oh, sorry. No. So that was kind of the drive, at least for us, as we were doing our train up. And the other part from JPMRCX that we begin to switch up, understanding from the heat casualty standpoint, is that how you train going in. Legs, longs, and load. That was the first thing I told General Evans is my feedback. You have to figure that out. You have to get your legs, longs, and load in order to prevent that. And you got to do reverse cycle, man. You have to start training in the daytime, in the middle of the freaking day when it's hot, so you can understand how it feels being in the jungle. And the best part about it is I made my schedule that way. Mm-hmm. My PT schedule that way. So if we were doing a PT with company commanders and first sergeant on a Thursday, I said, guess what, guys? That's a push day. And then if it's on a Monday, that's a longs day. So again, you have to basically adopt your schedule to what you want to emphasize.
Yeah.
So that was one part that we saw that was helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to skip forward if there's other things that you guys, want to talk about when it comes to the exercise, but I'm really interested in the so what's of the exercise, right? Yeah. So when you talked about mobility, communication, right? You talked about the ability to sustain yourself out there. You validated this new formation, right?
Sure.
What worked significantly well out there to do those things during the exercise? And then what worked, what didn't work well? Like what from a validating your formation, what were the things that stood out the most that worked, from a formation standpoint to solve the challenges that you guys said you wanted to get right? It's kind of, so what?
I go right off of, we wanted to ensure that when it came time to C2, from my TOC, TAC, plans, and ALOC, can we actually communicate at every level? That is upper TI, lower TI. And then we were actually forced, or not forced, we had to adapt and create a fifth node, and that was the TAC Light, to basically have a brigade C2 node that would deploy to the Big Island, and it had my Brigade XO and a Sergeant Major. Took the middle seat out of a ISV-9, took it out, put every platform we could, MUOS, TSM, Starlink, was in that vehicle, and we were able to operate, and that worked. Sergeant Major and them, they took it. We took a fires person, so you had a fifth C2 node, and that worked. And that was just ingenuity between a master sergeant all the way down to a private, to even lieutenants, putting something together. And Sergeant Major is like, hey, he even owning, but really taking the drivers in the team. So that worked. And that was extremely helpful. And the one story I harp on was, as 3/4 CAV, we're preparing to deploy, right? They're planning to do all their prep. We're still kind of in the fight, but we're still not yet, but we're doing all our pre-training. So I went down to Hickam. And when I stepped into the ALOC, and I was able to maintain the same systems that I had in a TOC, I said, that's the standard. When I could literally fight out of that if I wanted to, because they had all the systems there for me. And that is something that I found out that worked. And again, with Starlink, and we worked it out. The other thing that I found out that what worked was kind of our attack and being able to move, and our TOC being able to move. With the 2 LMTVs, about 2 other vehicles, they were able to hide, and
because it wasn't too big.
Wasn't too big, and we were able to camouflage it. That worked. One of the things that I'm learning that did not work, and then I'll pass Sergeant Major anything you saw too, just right the initial thing that I saw that did not work, is sometimes when you depend so much on your UASs, when the weather's crappy, what's looking for you? Who's helping you gain and maintain contact, right? MFRC has been doing, I think, a phenomenal job, but then that was a new formation. And what didn't work is they are not a squadron. They cannot look at multiple NAIs for me. That did not work. And we adapted to say, hey, I need them to focus on the thing that's most important to me. And I had to make that adjustment in mid-stride. And that allowed us to focus them on a priority. And the last thing I would say right now, just initially, I would say the NPCs, man, they worked. They worked very well with the battalion commanders and helping us to kind of shape and understand what was going on. Because they also had they had the fires. They had the, as far as the capabilities to make an impact on something that they saw that was a high value target for us and for me. And I was like, you don't need to ask me anything. Kill it. Kill it, period. So that's one of the things I look back and I say that truly, truly worked. So it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start off with what didn't work, right? Because I want to end with some, at least on my part, it was what worked well because, everyone did a really great job out there, but I think what really did not work very well for us, and this is a failure that I credit. I talk this to first sergeants, I tell this to soldiers, where I didn't emphasize our MASCAL logistics after the CCP, after the company CCP to the roll ones. They were great. And once they got down to the roll 2, like exercising from Bronco blitz, if we had probably put more emphasis there as a brigade to move them from the role 1 to the role 2 and then beyond. And so when it came time here, companies got all their guys exactly where they needed to go. And then once they got to the role 2, that's where we started running into some issues of logistics on like, okay, so they're at the role 2 now. Now we're trying to move these guys to role 3s and now get them out of the fight completely. And then the logistics of getting them back in. And that's where I think we didn't stress it enough during the company live fires at least, and then down to the company sticks. We could have added some more in there. So I put that on myself because I know as a senior advisor here, when we look at we look at medical and sustainment, and that was one of the things that I thought that we could have owned a little bit better. But in the end, though, as the fight progressed, the CLCs came on board. The logistics were there to transport and bring people back in the fight that were waiting to be picked up at the PHA. We started learning and adapting to it, and then it eventually became a good measure of our systems. And so what worked there to make that work entirely when we look at casualty reconstitutions was our ALOC, our S1, our MEDO, our S4s all working tandem right there. And we didn't have any issues when it came to reconstitutions. Didn't have any issues when it came to the vehicles being ready to go as if they were down for any kind of maintenance issue. So I think that worked really well for us on our side of it. Now, when we talk about like a little bit, I want to talk about enforcing standards. I think we had a pretty good setup for enforcing the standards with the NCOs. We talked a lot about that going into the exercise, but you had NCOs doing really great things out there. Where they didn't kind of meet the mustard on it was for some of our security postures. And I think that's what didn't really work well for us. We didn't find some of those hard security areas that we could have went into, dug in. But I know that people were doing it across the battalions. You can't see everybody, but you know there was some really good stuff out there. But I think we just got to tune it up a little bit when it comes to our enforcing of those basic standards of like digging in, survivability. But we can get to that at another time. Those are one of the things I thought we did well, and then what we didn't do. Well.
I think that's a good point. The people that are doing a good job with those things, you don't see them because they're way tucked into the wood line.
Yes,
they're camouflaged. You can't see them. The people standing on the side, sitting on the side of the road, doing the wrong thing, they're the ones that stand out like a sore thumb. So what we don't want to do is, think that the entirety of the organization, because of a few people, that's what everybody's out there doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of good things right there. How about from an equipment standpoint? Was there anything from the equipment standpoint now that was a game changer for you that worked so well, or some things that they worked a little bit, but we need to put a little bit more effort towards getting better with them from an equipment standpoint?
Well, so I'll go in three things. So the LRR, when the weather was good, oh, dude, it worked. Phenomenal. Mm-hmm. That's one. The ISVs and ISV heavy, specifically the kind of the C2 vehicle that I had, man, that thing worked. And I say work it because of the power generation it provided, the capabilities that we added onto it. That means we added all the MUOs, the TSM, the Starlink. So literally we had that all in my brigade TAC, and it went from being kind of a 5-vehicle brigade TAC to 2.
Yeah. 2
vehicles, right? And so that's something I saw that from an equipment standpoint, like, hey, we need to really emphasize how that can get utilized at the brigade level, recommending at least minimum 2 at every brigade to include the logistics, the sustainment brigades, and definitely the fires brigade. They got to I think they got to be able to have that.
Yeah.
From that ISV heavy standpoint. And then the ISV 9s are the ISVUs, right? Those are utility vehicles that we're supposed to be getting. No fear. It changed how you talking about game changer? That thing was able to get into places that the Polarises could not.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. And so they're looking at, hey, you can now have a battalion TAC and a battalion potentially CP node that will have a good power generation and good maneuverability in the terrain and mobile, and definitely be hidden.
Yeah.
And that was something that I saw that really worked. Some of the things that did not work as well, we talk about C2 on the move, at least some of the structure they had in there, because the way the system was set up, it sometimes did work, to be clear, but there was the thing where it had to be rather weatherized and ruggedized, and that was not always there.
Okay.
Right? So if I'm seeing a bunch of blinking lights from a system that's in the back of a truck, I said, that's not good. So somebody's going to find you.
Yeah.
Right? Another system that I think worked well was our S2AS system. That worked really well, but it always depends on the terrain.
Yeah.
Right? And that means that if you can get somewhere high, and then you can actually go from of how you do a lob to a fix to a cut and actually begin to put fires on there. Right? We just did not have enough systems to do it.
Yeah.
But it worked when it was put in the right area. The mortar system, Scorpion. 81 mortar system where it trucks just literally in 2 minutes. Could raise up, shoot, and move. Just like that.
Yeah.
You couldn't beat that, man.
Yeah.
That thing was phenomenal. The SMETs that we had, they work. They can go, again, a thing that could sustain a company to a platoon, those things worked. I think anything else on Major?
Well, the SMETs and the so those SMETs, because that one it's a system that when I first got here, I was like, what is this thing? I mean, I saw a different version over in 2101 that they were using. Most of the engineers were using it, but when I came here and I saw this piece of equipment, didn't really kind of understand it, why we had it if we were getting smaller. But then as I understand what we use the crap out of this thing in Bronco smoke. Cacti was specifically one of the premiers using it. They were adored by it because they're like, hey, this is I could put things on it, I could put people on it, and I can transport casualties off of it.
Yeah.
So they were putting litters on. They were being real creative about how they did things. And obviously we weren't going like 30 miles an hour with it, but it was just we wanted to test to see is this a CASEVAC platform as well? It moves ammo, it moves things. So what we did, what I think worked well with that SMET was designing these packages with the LSB. The LSB came up with different speedball packages that would go on SMETs and they would fit. So it was like a 1-for-1 SMET exchange that helped with our resupply. So you could use it as a resupply emergency, bring it out there and get into those tough pieces of terrain that CLCs, might find a little difficult if they're not shrunk even further.
Yeah.
And then we were testing out the ISVU, which was that utility vehicle, which paid dividends for the CLC because now they were transporting a lot more, classes of supply, but they could get into those same positions that the ISV-9s could get into, that a HEMET would never get there. And now you got to send a platoon up there to go get 40 water cans, and they're smoked by the time they get back. So they're downing half those water cans anyways because they're moving them down and up the gulch, right? So the SMETs I think are a really good design. I just they could be better, but those are I think what we're looking for in the 25th.
Okay.
And a lot of that, the thing that you saw there, that was developed from Bronco Smoke.
Yeah.
Bronco Blitz.
Yeah, this doesn't come out. Something like this didn't happen during RSOI.
Right. It did not. And so, credit to, our ALOC team and our SPO. It's just, when you're talking about a team effort, I had Major Johnson, I had Thelma. It's just a team of all my S4, the SPO, Alice. It's just a lot of people. A lot of, not only these majors, right? But you had these sergeants, these first sergeants, challenging, hey, sir, I don't know if this really works. I'm like, all right, let's just figure it out. You break it. I want you to break it. And they broke stuff. And then they fixed stuff. And that's where you want, called the best of breed. Like, hey guys, I want y'all to fix this thing, because ultimately it's almost like a play call. And this is where you see a lot of the things of, when you say packages, we were able to practice that. Hey, I want MEP 1. Hey, give me MEP 2. Give me MEP 3. And you force them to say it needs to get on SMET, a Humvee, or a helicopter. That's the format I want to see it on. And that's when we found out what really worked and what didn't work, but we had to test it out.
Yeah. That's really good, guys. Real concise, a lot of the things that worked out there and some of the things that didn't work out without going through all 64. It's clear which ones are working, right?
Yeah.
That are having the bang for their buck that are out there. Two areas I want to kind of talk about, the big two, right? And it's so what, okay? So what now? What's next for the Bronco Brigade? What do you guys got coming up here after Christmas in preparation for Pacific Pathways and such? What's some of the guidance that you've given your folks, to come out of Christmas kind of running, and then we'll wrap up with, how the last 2 weeks went with, the mentality and, Tropic Lightning Week and how that kind of that culture, of winning, at everything that we do is the mentality that we do. Not just in the Broncos, but in the 25th and in the Army and what we're about. Those are the last two. So what's next? What's coming up after Christmas for you guys and for the Broncos?
A couple of things we realize is sometimes I hate the word busy because people use it as a badge. People are not allowed to use the word busy around me. Don't. You have to be engaged, and sometimes you got to disengage. Be engaged to a point where you at least understand it so you all in and receive what's going on. And this is where, from a standpoint of understanding what the brigade needs, not what I want. And we realized real quick that, man, there are multiple activities being stacked that we're not thinking through right now. And so I say, hey, guys, and literally this was in a meeting that it hit you. And I was like, we got Bronco Surge right now. We just came out of Bronco Swarm. We got a surge. And what that meant is slow down. Let's just make sure we consolidate everything that we learn. And JPMRC, we learn how we actually now need to communicate. We learn how it does when we actually need to be mobile and taking care of the drivers and vehicles and our equipment. We learned that. Now we have to make sure we consolidate all that learning and then now be able to apply it and give it to new people showing up. So you asked me, what are we going to do coming in January? We got to make sure we apply all this new stuff that we've learned so when new people come in, they can embrace it and be part of it. The second part is we have new stuff that we have to take and receive. But before you do that, you got to be prepared to deploy, man. Remember how our job is deploy, recon, and fight. And I realized that to deploy, there's a lot of things that you have to be able to do just to get a unit out the door. And that allowed us to specifically focus on a battalion and say, you will not be part of E3B right now. You won't. I want you to focus on deploying. Period. Then there's new equipment that's coming in, and there's stuff you got to get away, get rid of, right? And when that new equipment coming in, it doesn't just happen by itself. And it goes back to the framework. Do you have the right people? Do you have the equipment? Do you have the training? And do you have the right sustainment to receive all this new equipment? And the last part is that there's transitions coming up. And that is, again, you transition, there's going to be people, leaders that have to transition. Equipment stuff that has to transition. Things got to get on a boat. That stuff's locked in. There's training we got to do at JPMRC X. Yeah. That's happening, bro. And more importantly, there's sustainment money-wise that you have to make sure those things are straight. So when you look at January coming into focus, is where Bronco Surge says, hey, guys, I gave them specific guidance, but more importantly, intent, written. Leader note number 4. You will do this. Here is the key task. And now that empowers at every level. Here's how we need to go. And that's what we're looking forward to in January.
Okay. Sergeant Major.
All right. I always say that he's in my head because I've already got some stuff in here.
As he should be.
Consolidated learning,
if
right?
If you said a bunch of different shit right now, that like all of a sudden we'd be like, what?
He's in my
It's too much. It should be the same.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about in here, I have consolidated learning with some of our papers, right? So we got some papers that are coming out because we want to get that shared experience out there for January and February because we're not only preparing ourselves, but we have to think about the Army, right? So like what our experience is going out from the 25th to show that this is what we want others to see, not merely for, who's the author. It's about what can you do to better the Army if they're looking in this direction and they want to be better, then here's some stuff that could make you better. You just got to read it.
Yeah.
Recover. We talked about that when we did the brigade, award ceremony for JPMRC, the post JPMRC awards. We talked about recover, and that's everything from people and equipment, but more importantly, taking care of your family during this holiday period. We know that at some point we may be called up to go look around and be active during our holiday season, but at least for families that are not and soldiers that are not, they're there like specifically to recover and then prepare for the Philippines here shortly after the new year. And then we know that we have new teammates coming in. So having the new teammates is going to have to kind of shift and balance our teams now, who has some stability going into JPMRC, and now we've got new folks coming in. And so what I'm planning with the sergeant majors now is that we're going to look over our manning because we do have, and this is a great thing. It's hard for us in the brigade, but it's a great thing. We just had 6 of our senior leaders selected to attend the Sergeant Major's Academy.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's a pretty big punch to the gut here, but it's a good.
They'll leave in the summer.
They're going to leave this summer.
So they won't go to the Philippines.
Nope. So for us, like now having to look down inside the formation to look for talent, we are doing that now. So by the new year, we're going to start to see some senior sergeant first classes, some senior NCOs standing in front of a guidon that they may have been a platoon sergeant for.
Yeah.
So setting the team now, so that way we're prepared to get in there.
Do you have equally, even close to equally? If you said 6 going to the Sergeant Major's Academy, what do you have coming in before the Philippines? From a senior NCO perspective. As
of right now, we've only received two master sergeants that have come, hard strike master sergeants, and we were supposed to have one more coming in. So that 7th guy that was coming in, he also made the academy list, so he won't be coming here. So we're sitting, internally looking right now until that switch changes at HRC to show that they need to send some folks out here. So the demand signal's out there. Send them.
Yeah. And I'm hyper-focused on that. And you say, well, why would JPMRC be hyper-focused on that? Because we're the organization here in the Pacific that sees every brigade. We see the Divardi. We see the Warrior Brigade. We're going to go see the Arctic Wolves here in a couple weeks, right? We see the Angels. We see the 11th Airborne Division, right? And so they're going to ask me these questions like, hey, is the Broncos going through the same thing? What should I anticipate, right? And what I'm trying to do is connect the dots between all of these brigades that are out here in the Pacific, because they're all going through the same challenges. If you had 6, what about the Warrior Brigade? What about the 11th Airborne? They got very similar. So where are those people coming in to take those companies, right? And to get them ready, not just for an exercise, but to get them in front of a guidon and get them out in front of a company. And sometimes those NCOs are here at JPMRC, and it's time for them to leave as an OC and go back and put a diamond on and go be a first sergeant.
Yeah,
right. Because they've been with us for a couple of years now as an OC, and vice versa. That whole connection that is what I'm hyper focused on from a people standpoint. And you're the chief of the people. That's what I call Sergeant Major Porter, the chief of the people.
But I think like when you can make that connection though, like when we talked earlier on about like what makes the Bronco Brigade so special is like, yes, when I can put a platoon sergeant who loves their organization just as much as they were in a platoon and then move them up and they're like now sitting in front of that guidon, and I mean, you just exploded their mind. They're like, I love this place even more because now I've got a company, right? And if you're taking folks from other organizations and we're interpost transferring them out over to this brigade and putting them in front of a guide on, they love it even more because, one, they get to stay on the island a little bit longer, right? Yeah. Then they get to be in a brigade
they know the problem.
It's going forward.
Challenges.
So internally, I think that's what, that's where we really like thrive here is we've got good people that want to be in this organization and help drive it forward that it already is. Yeah. 5 of the captains that we have right now at JPMRC are coming to the Warrior Brigade and the Bronco Brigade, and they're going to have Alaska, Hawaii, and Philippines stink on them when they come to you, and they're going to have seen all 3 of those rotations, right? And then we got the same thing going on in Alaska. Post KD captains coming over to be a part of those OC teams. They know the Arctic, they know the terrain, they know the challenges, and they come back and forth and they go out to the Army. And then we line that up too with what JRTC brings out to us and NTC. And we learn from what they're learning from the 101st and the 82nd, but they also see what we're doing out here and then bring that back to their CTC. We're connecting all of those dots, right? Hey, I want to land this plane with you two guys talking about where we started, right? Which is what makes an organization special, not just the Bronco Brigade, but what's special about the Army and the teams, and how what you guys just prepared for, right? Tropic Lightning Week, we do it in all the divisions. We have some form of a week, right? Where we come from together for a Ranger Rendezvous, for All American Week, right? And it reinvigorates the warrior ethos in us all, like the pride in our unit and the pride in other units. But it also reinvigorates what winning looks like, right? And it's that winning on the battlefield also looks a lot like winning on the field out there. And the things that winning teams kind of do are similar. How has the last couple weeks, reinvigorated that or shown some of the people across this island how important both of those things are?
Man, boy, I will. Couple of things. We talk about the organization and what we inherited, but you got to compete every day. So what does that mean? First thing you got to compete with is yourself. Period. And I go back to what, again, as Rob and I changed out, you don't realize this, but since we've been in the Army, we've been preparing for war, fighting, and recovering. That's me and you. Most of us at this level have been doing that. So we've been consistently competing. And then when you're able to take that and look at the organization that you are part of, and infuse that in every day from PT and just from soldier discipline, leader discipline, because leader development is one word and continuous, right? At every moment, you got to be able to engage in that department. And so how it comes about to when it came to talking to our soldiers prior to Tropic Lightning Week, to me, it was simple. All the training that we've been doing, we've been competing, not against necessarily anyone, but against ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I tell every leader and every soldier, there's 3 things I want you to focus on. Be lethal, be reliable, and own your fight. Reliable is when I need you, I need you. Right? When you all need me, I'm going to show up. So I have to make sure, again, I'm competing with myself daily. And that has happened throughout. So as we came to Tropic Lightning Week, I was able to tell every battalion and look at them in the face. Sergeant Major and I, we talked about it. You guys have been owning your fight, and you've been dominating right now in this terrain, in the fights. You've been doing it. You have been absolutely doing it because I seen it. I saw it. And I freaking loved it. When a PFC comes to you at 2:00 in the morning and says, "Sir, this is the best training we've ever done," I love it. Our lieutenant comes up, say, "Sir, thank you." Our E7 says, "Sir, I heard you over the net. You said Omaha, and we were ready to come and support. We were ready, but they call index." Mm. There is no other feeling you get when you are in all cameled up And at every level, every light fighter was like, every Bronco was like, yeah, let's go. To include anyone that integrated with us.
Mm-hmm.
The MPs, a section, just kind of showed up, didn't have all the equipment. I said, when I need you, I need you. And here's what you got to have. So we integrated it. We competed it. And he saw that. And I said, hey, man, listen, if I call Omaha 2, I need you to get your butt over there and help out Cacti. Or Cacti, if you hear Omaha this, you need to be able to go here. It goes back to when I need you, I need you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we got done with training, I said, hey, guys, we're getting ready to go into Tropic Lightning Week. If you've been doing what I've been telling you to do, right, I'm not concerned. But you need to know, and everyone needs to know, I need you to dominate in every fight you do. You may not win here, there, but see, for me, winning, I look at it as I just need you to dominate. I need you to be relentless. Relentless means you won't win everything like top level, but I won't stop, man. You won't stop. And that kind of just passion about the soldiers at every level, knowing that you had a lieutenant fighting, I had a private fighting, like in the combatives, and then in the frisbee, in the cooking. You know, we had a major from No Fear that was part of the cooking team, and a master sergeant, and some PFCs. You can't get a better mix than that.
Yeah.
Right? But where did that start? That started for us when we all showed up and we said we're going to be part of Task Force Broncos.
Yeah.
May 23rd, and even before then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? When you look at all the leaders.
It started last year,
right?
2 years ago. It's just continuous, like you said, continuous.
Continuous.
Yeah.
That's it. And so when someone asks, hey, what does it take? I say, hey, listen, just go all in. Go all in. Understand the history that you just inherited. Remember who you are and whose you are. And you make sure that when they call the Broncos or they call your name, right? And they say King or they say Olivas and that you're a Bronco, that you represented that unit well. And that's why I told the team, I said, I don't care what battalion you go to.
Yeah.
I don't care. That thing better stay right here. Period.
Yeah.
I don't care. Period. And that was it. And I said, I'll see y'all on the field.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that, I'll look back at, man, and it goes back. And I always say, when a private comes up to you in the middle of the night at 02 in the morning in KTA, as scenes are going, it's like, sir, I'm ready. Sir, thank you.
Put me in.
I'm like, I'm done. Our job here is done. And because you've been driving that. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, man. You're going to get me excited. I'm ready. I mean, it's Army-Navy game coming up. I may have to go through a wall right now. I mean, but that's what it's about. It's the organization. And again, I always go back to Rob and just the whole team is like, hey, man, you inherited something. It's about the organization.
Yeah.
It's not about you, me, him. It's about that goddamn organization. And the soldiers, they love it because they know I would sacrifice anything for them, right? I hold them accountable too.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, man. My bad. I know.
Yeah.
No, we
take us home, Sergeant.
Yeah, so
I'll
talk a little bit about behind the curtain. So this wasn't just a making right after JPMRC. This was probably 6 months and beyond. There was a little bit of reconnaissance going on. I mean, that's my background. So we definitely put out if you are not aspiring to win, then you probably need to find another brigade, because this brigade will go on to win things probably bigger than yourselves, but you don't even know that yet. And so that's what we talked about when I first came on board, was like, because I got here and I was like, what the heck is this Tropic Lightning Week? I'm used to some of the, I mean, I know we, coming from 101st, we've got, Week of the Eagles, but in a different capacity, right? And here it's just it's like walking around and going, seeing people play the sports that they want to play, get into their, what makes them, go back to their high school days when they were like the king of the battlefield out there, on the football field, right?
Yeah.
Reliving the glory days, but that reconnaissance that we came was continuous for us. It was like, hey, go out there and find your talent inside of your formations. And so that's what they did. They found coaches, they found assistant coaches, and then they did their tryouts and they started finding their athletes. And then they started finding their gamers, right? And then they started finding all the people that make up what was going to become their team, which again, like you said, is a master sergeant, a private, and a major, and all these like groups that were put together to build this team and just a cook-off, right? But you imagine as you're doing that, like early on, you're building a team of people who are close. And then that spreads within the organization because now they're like, oh, I was working with this master sergeant, and now they're back to their platoon, who's like got a platoon sergeant and just a bunch of just guys, right, just hanging out in the platoon. Yeah. And so you just build it, and the culture starts, and it just starts to just ember right there, and then it just spreads over the course of the year, leading to Tropic Lightning Week.
Yeah.
So
and that translates so well, not just finding your athletes, but like finding your people that are inspired about doing certain tasks, right?
Yeah.
That translates so well to go into the field and going to do company live fire and from a sustainment operation, and someone who's passionate about, maintenance and fixing certain types of vehicles or certain types of equipment, and they're passionate about it, right? And you find the people that are passionate. So it translates so well from sports to combat back to sports. Yeah. And so that's why I think they're so intertwined.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we want to get after is that, in this brigade, we're going to find the right people for the right job. And if we don't find them, we'll outsource. We'll go look for, somebody within this division, right?
Recruit, baby.
And recruit them out. Like there are people that will stop us in the commissary. They'll stop us at the gas station, filling up, and be like, "Hey, I was thinking about, putting up something for, coming over to the brigade. I just don't want to say it just yet, but I'd like to go over to there because I have this skill and my time is getting short, and I want to come back and stay here longer, but I want to go to your brigade."
Yeah.
So we get that a lot, and it's just this is a great brigade to be a part of. I know that at some point we're going to have to change seats, and then it'll be somebody else's turn to keep the cup. But for the time being, I think this was probably the best year of Tropic Lightning Week because everybody was all in to just winning, right? Yeah. And it was like they're just winning something bigger than themselves.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. Hey, I want to give the last shout out to you two guys, and taking the time today to do this and share this with me and with anybody that's willing to listen, that wants to listen. I know there's a lot of people out there that want to hear the so what that you did. I got a page full of notes right here, that I've got. I will absolutely be sharing them with every brigade that I touch base with. Absolutely. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now is to maximize, this, profession that we are a part of, right? It's not just doing it for our team, right? It's doing it for all the teams that are out there. And if ever somebody was to say, "Hey, I don't got what it takes to maybe to do it in this brigade," I would say they don't belong in the Army then, because if they can't do it in an organization with these quality of leaders, you're going to give them to somebody else,
right?
Right. No. If you can't train them, if you can't get them to be where they need to be, then they probably can't cut it, right?
That's right.
And we want to hold them to that standard, right? We want everybody to be raised up to that standard. So when they do leave these organizations, they go out and create that.
That's right.
At whatever organization that it becomes infectious, right? And like a pandemic that spreads, the warrior ethos starts to spread to all of our Army. And that's what we're looking for. That's what I'm trying to do out there. So I appreciate you guys, entertaining me with this and doing this. And I hope we do you justice by sharing it with as many people as we can. And from a JPMRC perspective, I'm going to take this to the 11th Airborne as early as this afternoon. And next week, I'll be out there with them in January, February. But then I'll be back with you guys and the 25th. We'll be back out there in the Philippines in April and May. We'll be doing this in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia. Oh, wow. And then we'll swing back around for next year with the Warrior Brigade. It's continuous. That's right. This is a continuous thing. There's no end state. I don't even have an end state for JPMRC because it's continuous, on building readiness, leadership development. That's why we do these combat training centers, foundational leadership development, validate formations and new equipment, and that ain't going to stop anytime soon. So
please
thank you.
continue with the LTP and the coaches, because that was one thing that I found was extremely helpful, that the coaches and LTP at Bellows there with the team, isolated, allowed us to like test every SOP we had, train it, refine it, and the coaches give you brutal feedback. You gotta keep that. Okay. That is something that is so worth investing. And then next thing, that same coach came out with me in JPMRC, and again, everyone should at least, if possible, have a coach. Like,
everybody needs a coach.
Everybody needs a coach.
A lot of them wearing stripes.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
We'll do go Army, be Navy, baby, all day.
Beat them.
Beat them.
Thanks for listening today. I hope we sparked some thoughts about the people that have inspired you to be who you are today. I hope you share some of your thoughts, and better yet, demonstrate them for the people in your life. Our pursuit is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories stacked on top of each other, building like compound interest. Keep stacking these positive habits. Habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. Please share your comments at the links in the show notes and DM us at Teach Me to Fish podcast on Instagram or Facebook. Looking forward to our next conversation.
Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight.